as well. So this is about social media. And the fact about social media is I'm really not a big fan. And yet I use it constantly, okay? I love Facebook. But that's like saying there's a restaurant in one of the worst parts of town, and I really love their food, okay? So I'm going to go to that restaurant because I really love that food. But I'm going to pack a gun, and I'm going to be sure to hire someone to watch my car, and I'm going to get near the door and dash in and get the food and dash out. Facebook is one of the most corrupt, worst places to be in the world. It really is. I want to tell you why it doesn't work for churches. And I'm a little upset at guys like Justin Wise and everybody, and I just named him, so that's going to be out there, isn't it? Their whole ministry is about, hey, you need to use social media. Churches need to use social media. Churches need to get on social media. I know the head of Lifeway is pushing that as well. I totally disagree with them. And Facebook changed everything. So when they're talking about how to get on and why you need to get on, it's totally changed. Facebook has decided, for example, that if you get a church Facebook page and you have, let's say, 1,000 people that like you or joined you or whatever, you know, they're friends. If you have a corporate site like that, they're not friending you. They like you, and when they like you, they get everything, okay? So you have 1,000 people who have liked your church's site, and you're going to post something on Facebook so they see it. Anybody have any idea how many people will see it? Take a guess. So 1,000 people liking you. Yeah, that's correct, actually. It's a little less than that, but okay, somebody knows. There's 1,000 people on Facebook, and they like it. You post something on your Facebook site. How many people do you think is going to see it?
15.
You can actually do it on less than the two hands, a 6. It's absolutely incredible the number of people that are going to see, because if you just like the church's website and you're using it, it is not a message delivery system. Okay, there's a lot of reasons why that's not going to work. First of all, I'm sorry, it's 6%. So that 1,000, if it's 100, that would have been 6. So 1,000 is going to be 60, I guess. So if you have 100 people like you, only 6 are going to see it. Okay, because they use these quotas to see how it's going to go. Then it gets worse. Okay, so six out of 100 see it. Okay, they have to see it in 2.5 hours. Because if they're an average user of Facebook, stuff scrolls on and scrolls off, and after 2.5 hours, it'll be too far down, they won't even see it. Okay, so another reason why is if you have 100 people or 1,000 people that like you on Facebook, they just hide your information. So a lot of churches do big promotions like, hey, we have a Facebook site. We're looking for 500 people to like us this week. Everybody get on and like us. So everybody will go and they'll like the site. And then they'll start pushing out, here's our verse of the month, or here's this, or pastor had this comment. And they can simply hide you because they don't want to unlike you. You know, that's bad. They can simply hide it, and then when you send out your information on Facebook and you send it out, you get a report on how many people you reached. And it gives you a report of how many people could have possibly saw your post. It doesn't tell you that maybe everybody has already hid your post at that point. They don't want to even see your stuff anymore. You still think it's working, and you think it's a great way as a distribution tool. It simply isn't. So the reach report that Facebook gives you is totally bogus. Now, there's reasons why Facebook did this that are legitimate. I mean, they really had to do this. Because once Facebook started, it was for personal friends. Friends and family. You all get together and you can connect. That's what it's for. It's family reunion time. And then businesses started realizing, hey, let's use social media as a great way to reach out. And so businesses pushed that. And they've done a lot of stuff. And they've done a lot of scams. And I wish Christians would stop falling for them because we're primed for that. You know the stuff I said on personal, you know, your data mining and your personal information, you got to realize that you're contributing to it in a big way. Anybody play Angry Birds? Nobody? Come on, there you go, thank you. Angry Birds was like a real popular app you got on your computer, and one version was free. The paid version didn't offer much more. Angry Birds came out and it swept the world. You can go to Walmart and there's Angry Birds toys for the kids. I have an Angry Birds t-shirt somebody gave me, you know. Angry Birds. You know the purpose of Angry Birds? It tracked everywhere you went. Once you installed it on your phone, it tracked everywhere you went. So you went to Target, you went to Sirloin Stockade, you went to this bookstore, you went to your mom's house. It tracked and reported everywhere you went because that was money. That's money to know that you like a steakhouse and you like Chinese food. That's money to know that you shop Target versus Walmart. That's money if you go to a shoe store. That's money. So they created a great game and gave it away for free simply because there was nothing that said they couldn't track you, particularly on an iPhone because your battery's always on. On Facebook is this the number one place where they're getting everything about you. How many of you, now don't be afraid because I just told you I use Facebook all the time. How many of you are on Facebook? Okay, then you've seen these things. One of the things you've seen is, hey, find out which character of the Wizard of Oz you are. And you go through and you answer these questions, and it says, oh, you're Dorothy or whatever. I don't even know who the characters are. Or find out what state you'd be if you were a state. Find out what pet you'd be if you was a pet. Find out what a Dallas character you'd be on the Dallas show. Every time you do those things, find out what your IQ is. Every time you do those things, it's free. Why were people doing those for free? You have to ask yourself, who put this out there and why is it free? They are getting every bit of your social, they're getting your makeup, they're understanding what makes you emotional, who you are, and that's all being data mined, and you are sitting down for the interview and giving them every information about your personal life. The more you do that, the more it goes to the data mining companies, and they have developed a profile on you. They know which character of the the Wizard of Oz you'd be. They know the Gone with the Wind. They know all this kind of stuff, and it gives them a psychological profile, and you're volunteering that information. I'll tell you another thing Facebook does that's really bad is if you ever see these things and you just feel compelled to like them, you know, someone will post it and say it'll be a troop, a soldier. You know, hey, if you support our troops, share this or post this or like this. And of course you feel compelled. I'm not going to say I don't support our troops. Poor Marine, and show a Marine has got his leg missing or something like that, you know, support wounded warriors, support these troops. And you click those things. And the Christian is in this, they're marketing to Christians in a big way the same way. I saw one that had a pencil that looked like a cartoon pencil, had Jesus on the pencil, and it was turned upside down and it was erasing the word sin. Can I get an amen? And that's what it was. Can I get an amen? Like this, if you agree. Now, if you go back to the original post of that, it went to a marketing organization that had 1.2 million likes. Because what Christian's not going to like the fact that Jesus can erase our sins? They created that to sucker you to click like. Now, what can you do with that? Well, first of all, you know that if they have a certain degree of arrangement with Facebook, if they pay for a professional degree, they get your real email address. By the way, Facebook, you had to get a Facebook email address when you started. You had to. And you don't have to be your real email address, but you had to give your real email address as well. So they give, when you like something like that, they get your Facebook address, and then they can do broadcast emails to your Facebook email, but Facebook forwards it to your real email address. So when you get all this spam and you don't like spam, guess where it's coming from? It's getting from the fact you're a Facebook user. So what about those 1.2 million people who click, they like the pencil that Jesus is surrendering? Okay, they can take that site. Now they've got your email address. They can sell that. They got all kinds of other information they can sell. But best yet, when they get 1.2 million likes, Facebook allows them just to sell that site. They can totally erase the Christian site, and they can sell shoes. Now, when they post something, even though it's now, luckily now it's only 6%, but see, it used to be a lot higher percent, they would post something, all of a sudden you'd see this ad for shoes in the middle of your stuff. You're like, how come I'm a friend with somebody selling shoes? I didn't put that in there. Where did that ad come from? That ad came from because you clicked something saying you support the troops, or you like Jesus, or something like that. And when your friends are the ones that post that, you feel compelled to help them or support them, but everybody's suckered in. Facebook is sucking America dry. So I use Facebook. I don't take those silly surveys. I don't like a lot of stuff that I see come across. I actually like it, but I'm not going to like it and give that information away. And somehow we got to get the information out to people to quit this on Facebook. And Facebook will shut itself down. They just did it again about 3 weeks ago. They changed something on the security, which means they allowed people to come in and virtually rape your Facebook site. They know who your friends are. They know what you like. They read everything. And then you change your security back whenever Facebook has been, 6 congressmen one time was going to just take Facebook to the courts, and it never happens. It never happens. Facebook can break any rules and do anything they want to. Now that they're public, even more so, because they're driven on the fact they have to make profit. So Facebook, if you like Facebook, I go to it. It's where I see my grandkids. It's where I communicate with my family. It's where I had 1,000 people follow me on Facebook at one time when I didn't use Facebook. But these really aren't friends. Okay, so one day I announced, I'm going to drop you on Facebook if I don't personally know you. You know, and I gave them all a week, and some people unfriended. They started leaving, and then one day I went through and removed. I was down to 78 people 78 people that I really knew, that were friends, family. Recently, I connected with my mom's side of the family, so I picked up like 20 cousins I've never seen in my entire life, and they post some ridiculous stuff, but it's kind of interesting. So Facebook is not the way to try to promote stuff to your church, using and it's okay. You should have a Facebook site, because people search Facebook now like they used to search the web. So if they're moved into the community, they're interested in your church, they need to find you on Facebook. But don't assume. I teach a class every year online about social media. And this last year, I really changed it a lot. I said, don't assume that you can use it as a way to broadcast. Don't assume it's a way you can connect. And you can go online and find policies even for the Catholic Church on using Facebook. Don't get too personal. But I'm telling you, all you want on a Facebook site for a church is just how to use it to promote. Just so people can find your church, find the times of the services, that sort of stuff. Okay? That's all the bad stuff on Facebook. Now let me tell you the good stuff. Here's how to really use Facebook. We need to grab this and use this in every church. Facebook is how your friends, is how your people in your congregation are communicating with people. That's how they're communicating with people. Don't try to crash their family dinner. Don't try to crash their family reunion. Don't try to get in there, but instead invite them to join you in using Facebook as a way to share their faith. You get that? Invite your congregation to use Facebook as a way to share their faith. So let's say you do have a new ministry starting. You're going to do a new women's ministry or Mother's Day Out program, or you're having new classes coming up. On your website, create a separate website for that. That promotes that, a page that promotes that item. Whoever does your website can do that. New women's ministry. Let's just use that as an example. New women's ministry starting. Now, unfortunately, the URL for that will be very, very long. It might be www, like we'rethegreatestchurchontheblock.com/newwomensministry.com. And that's too long, okay, to share that URL. URL is the address for that. What you do then is you get the address for that, whatever. You created a web page off of your web page that tells about the New Women's Ministry. You go to Google and look for anything that does a short URL. Anything. There's all kinds of sites that do it for free. And what they simply do is they give you a short URL. Have you ever seen those on Twitter or Facebook? It's like www.xq7490.com. That's because someone took a really long URL, went to that site, and they just made a random number of stuff to make it a short URL. Then what you do is, however you communicate to your congregation, and after this time next year, you'll probably be texting them, okay? You text out that URL, or you email it out, or you put it in your bulletin, or you send it out in your snail mail, however you do. Hey, help tell your friends about our New Women's Ministry. Now, they can go to their Facebook, and they can say, hey, my church is starting a new thing for women. Here's a link if you'd like the information. If you got 50 people that do that, they have between 50 and 150 friends is the average. You just reached thousands of people with that information. You're never going to get thousands of people to come to your Facebook site and like you and somehow get that information out. But if you start using your congregation to promote your new stuff, they'll do it. They want something cool to post anyhow on their status. And that's a great way for them to share their faith, other than saying, listen, I'm a Christian, I need to talk to you about how to become a Christian. It's just a great way for them to feel they're sharing their faith. Yes?
I got two technologies mixed up here. You got this like a bit.ly
mini URL.
You said text that to people?
You could text it to your congregation, or text or email it, or put it in a church bulletin, and say, tell your friends about this new ministry, and here's that short little URL.
Right, and where did Facebook come in at?
Then those people, I'm a member of the congregation, and my priest has just said, help us promote this new ministry. I'm going to go to Facebook, and in my status, I'm going to say, hey, our church is doing something really cool. Click here, and there'll be the short URL. They probably, if they Twitter, I can't say it. I'll say it. If they're Twitter, they're idiots. But if they're twittering, you can only get 144 characters. Maybe they're going to text their friends too. They may do a broadcast text to all their family. That URL needs to be short because it needs to be not really long. It takes the whole text. They don't have much time. Facebook used to have a limit on how much you can do in your status. They don't anymore. So you can get a lot of information in there. But yeah, then you encourage them. Look, guys, how many use Facebook? And they raise their hand. Good. I want to challenge you. We have this new ministry starting. We're moving into a new building, or we're going to have our 25th anniversary. I want to challenge you to tell your friends about this. Here's how you do that. Here's a little URL, put it up on the screen, whatever, and share that in your status in Facebook. That's it. They'll do it. And for every one person there, you can reach 50 to 150 people. That's how you use social media. You have your members of your congregation reach and guess what? The people that are following them read their status. They're not going to read your status, but they'll read their status. So, hey, my mom or my sister or my cousin or the guy I work for told me about this new thing. Hey, we're having something for marriages. Your marriage need trouble? We have a weekend for marriages. Total strangers will walk in if they get the information, and you know where they're going to value the information if it came from a friend, personal communication. So you have to use, not me as a broadcast agent. I'm not broadcasting this out. Put billboards up. We're having a new ministry for women. We're having a new marriage enrichment. No one's going to come. Okay? Put it in your newsletter, put it in a sign outside. No one's going to come. But if you get your members to tell their family and friends through social media, people are going to come. Because now it has greater value because it came from a friend of mine who told me about it. It must be kind of good. That church is hot. So that's one way. The second way, if you want to really be bold, is this. You really encourage them to share their faith. Now, just like Protestant churches, Catholic churches are a little different. Some are different than others. Some would like this. I know of a Catholic church that did this. Others are going to say, are you kidding me? What they did was they simply said, look, we need to learn how to share our faith personally. So we had a class on how to share our faith personally. You know, here's why I'm a Catholic. Here's why I'm a Christian. Here's what I do. Okay, then they said, now we got Jimmy over here. Jimmy used to get used everywhere in my sermons, in my stories. We have little Jimmy over here with a notebook computer. It's an antique, but we're going to use it. And if you'd be willing to share your faith, we're going to let you say it to the computer. We'll record it for you. We'll put it up on YouTube, and we'll give you the address. And I was at a little church, and 50% of the congregation, which is 50, so 25 people, they did this. On a Saturday afternoon, they had pizza, and they had a class on how to share their faith. And then one by one, they went over here to a little booth and sat down with the computer, and somebody started to record, and they just shared their faith, and they click when they're done. They had a signal like this. Okay, they clicked when they're done. You post it on YouTube. It's available in like 60 seconds. Okay? And then you say, here's the URL for your testimony. There you go, it's yours. Now, first of all, anybody can go to YouTube and do a search for that person's name. It's probably the only YouTube video they got. And here, hi, I'm Jane, and I'd just like to tell you why I'm a Christian. That's it, and blah, 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 blah. But the beauty of that is you encourage them to start using that URL. So in their signature, their email, they would put, hey, I'm Steve Hewitt, and here's this URL link, and people will click it, and there's a testimony from the person on why they're a Christian. They now have a way. They can actually send it to friends. They can send it to their family. Say, hey, I'm on YouTube. Check this out. And it's just a great way if you just go to testimonies on YouTube, you're going to find thousands and thousands and thousands of Christians who just recorded a short 1 or 2 minute video on why they're a Christian. That's a great way to actually get your congregation to use it to actually share their faith with people. Okay, let's switch to Twitter. I absolutely 100% without a shadow of a doubt hate Twitter. I'm on Twitter, and I don't promote it. I never tweeted anything out, you know. And I had about 1,000 people who followed me, and I don't know why. You know, I'm like, I never sent anything, you know. Oh, you okay? The table, I think itself collapsed or something. You all right? All right, good deal. Sometimes people have that reaction when I say that about Twitter. They just, no. So I had about 1,000 people follow me on Twitter. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Because someone would follow me on Twitter and it'd say, Jim followed you on Twitter. He's a minister at this church. He follows 27,000 people, and he's got 27,000 people following him. And I'm like, that's impossible. That's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. It's stupid. So how many of the 1,000 people are following me? So first of all, I have a guy in my office named Kevin. Kevin's like my assistant. Kevin doesn't like the spotlight, so he's happy to stay back there. So he worked for me for years. He came back, and he left to go to work. He came back because I like him that much. I rehired him at a lower wage. And he works for me. He's happy to be there. So Kevin does my tweets. So if you follow me on Twitter, you're going to get 3 or 4 tweets a week from me. I had nothing to do with them, okay? Kevin logs on and says, hey, here's a link to a great blog from Shelby Systems about such and such, you know. So we're sending these tweets out, and I'm like, Twitter is so stupid. How many people do you think are really getting any of the information I'm sending? So we did this thing where like the new car. If you're getting this letter, you get a new car, call me. So we really put up $100 for anybody that would answer my tweet. We sent it out and said, if you see this tweet, 1,000 people, we sent it the prime time of the day. If you see this tweet and you contact me back within 24 hours, you get a $100 gift card. 1,000 people. How many gift cards do you think I had to give away in 24 hours? 2 is right. 2 people. 2 people got a $100 gift card from me out of 1,000 people. That's all that, you know, if they saw that text, they would have responded. But that's the response limit to Twitter. So what happened, Twitter had this great idea too. I'm going to send out a friend, you can follow me, and it'll come on your little text. You know, it's a great way to send free text, because text used to cost money to send a lot of text. So Twitter's idea was, hey, all your friends follow you on Twitter, and you all get text, and it's great. Until these guys, Justin, somebody, and all these people had a big contest, who could get 1 million people to follow them. And when they did that, Twitter didn't mean anything anymore. Because 1 million people following you doesn't do anything. Because no one's going to get all those texts. And when you follow 27,000 people or 12,000 people, really? And so I had to ask those 2 people, how is it they saw my text? They're not really pushing my text to their cell phone, are they? No, they weren't. No one's doing that, obviously. So the 2 people saw my text. One's because he had to go to the bathroom, and the other because he just had some time to sit down. So they follow thousands of people. So every so often they just check their Twitter. And it's like 1,000 letters are going by, and every so often you stop and grab 5. And you read those. And then you're off for the day. Another 1,000 Twitters are going by, and then maybe 2 or 3 days later you happen to stop and you read 5 of them. It's absolutely the most ludicrous, stupid way to communicate I've ever seen in my entire life. So I still tell people this. And the number of people following me has dropped to about 800. I'm like, why would anybody follow me? So I told Kevin, let's just keep sending out those tweets. And now Twitter sends you a report and says, you have 800 people follow you. You sent out this month, you sent out 20 tweets, and 3 people read them. Out of 800 people times 20, 3 people. You know, it's just ridiculous. It's stupid. And what really amazes me is guys like Rick Warren, who's pastor of Saddleback, the largest, one of the largest churches in America. I thought it'd be kind of cool to follow him. Rick Warren sends out 24 tweets a day. And so does the president of Lifeway. I followed him. I thought it'd be kind of cool. And he sends out 20 texts a day. And what they'll do is they're so shallow. They'll send out a text and say, I think churches should do online giving. And here's a link to an article. And then an hour later, they'll come out and they'll tweet, I wonder if your church does online giving. Check out this article. Same article. And then an hour later, it'll be rephrased a different way. So for about 5 hours, they'll be pushing one link to one article, and they just send them out, you know, like every hour. And none of those guys are really sending those tweets out. They're just like me. They got someone on their staff that does it. Okay? So Twitter is really, really, really stupid. Now, when I tell people, hey, your church needs to text, some people think, I can do it with Twitter, save money. No, you can't. Twitter's stupid. Twitter should be illegal. I'll tell you this, the next senator that sends something out on Twitter that's embarrassing to his life, and then he discovers somebody read that, he should resign. Not because, I don't care what he sent out on Twitter. It's if he's stupid enough to think that something on Twitter is secure. I mean, he doesn't even get it. Do you know I can get an app on my computer right now, and I can ask for all the tweets that have been sent within 1 mile of this space. I can read them off for the last 30 days. I can do that. Nothing's secure about Twitter. So you may really be using Twitter the way you think you're using Twitter. Your mom's following you and it goes to her cell phone and you're sitting there and you think, I can read it. I can read anything I want to on Twitter. You can find it at all. Nothing's secure about Twitter. Everything's out there and it's wide open. So churches try to use Twitter for text, and they go, hey, please pray for Jim. He just got diagnosed with diabetes. And then his company fires him because his insurance went up or something like that. You just cannot even do prayer requests. You can't do anything on Twitter. It's a real bad idea. Now, here's the positive way to use Twitter. Anybody watch Jimmy Fallon? It's okay. No one's looking. We can, okay, good. Cameras on him. You can, okay, Jimmy Fallon does this as a Twitter thing once a week. Now, quite honestly, what he does could be done just as well with email. But the new way is, and like that church in Florida, basically it tells you you can tweet something with a hashtag. And if the hashtag can be searched, anybody can find that hashtag. So, Jimmy Fallon on Thursday or Wednesday or something like that, he tweets, tell me your most embarrassing moment, and hashtag JF embarrassing moment. And then people around the nation can go, in one tweet, they'll share their most embarrassing moment. He can find those. He picks the best ones and puts them on the air. He could just as easily say, I'm going to email your most embarrassing moment, email it to jimmyfallon@nbc.com. He could just do that. They're using Twitter to push information back to somebody using a hashtag. They're just replacing email with it. And that's what that First Baptist Church in Orlando does. They don't use Twitter as a way to distribute information. They use Twitter as a way for people to respond to them. And you can do that. That's not a bad way. Some churches are wanting to do surveys, live surveys during the service. And there are programs that do that. You can actually, I know of a pastor, the message was on Jesus being your friend, so he started out by saying, how many of you are on Facebook? I want you to take your cell phones out, and I want you to text the word yes to this number or no to this number, and they could use Facebook. They said test yes, yes, to, hashtag, and then that information showed up on the screen, and it went right up as you saw, the bar chart. And he goes, okay, most of you are on Facebook. Now, I want to talk to you this morning about what it really means to be a friend, because that was this message. I know of a pastor did a text survey during worship service. He goes, how many of you are afraid? Now, I know most of you are going to say, no, you're not afraid. You're macho guys, you're not been afraid. But I'm going to ask you this. Within the last week, have you ever worried would there be enough money at the end of the month to pay the bills? Have you ever worried about your health? Maybe that lump means something. Have you ever worried that your spouse may not stay with you the rest of your life? Have you ever worried your children? You're scared your children won't love you and stay with you. They're angry. Have you ever worried? He went through all these things you should be scared about, and he goes, now, if you've been scared in the last week, I want you to text on the 98% of people admitted they've been scared within the last week. And then he preached on the number one commandment in the Bible is fear not. You got them in the palm of your hand. They're all listening. They're all connected to the sermon because personally you grab some information from them and use texting. I really went overboard on that one, but anyhow, that's just some great examples of using texting and using Twitter. You could use Twitter for that to receive information in. It's a terrible way to distribute information. Comments or thoughts, questions? Because I went really fast on this. Really? No, thank you. Thank you so much for helping me. I don't care. Ask me what kind of car I drive. I don't care. Just thank you.
Would you recommend Pinterest as a way to reach people, or how would you recommend the use of that?
Tell me how you're using it now.
Right now, it's kind of used on as getting.
How many here are using Pinterest? That's one of the reasons I wouldn't use it for much, is Pinterest. You can actually post pictures on a special site like your Facebook. It's a special site where you post pictures, and pictures tell 1,000 words, 1,000, So I don't have an answer for that. It's really obscure. It's a neat way that people are doing now. They're talking about, I saw a movie, God Has Left the Building, and in the movie they talked about Kodak and how Kodak's kind of like the church, and Kodak didn't get what was happening, and now they filed for bankruptcy in 2012. And the whole deal now is people aren't taking pictures to memorialize something. They're taking pictures as a way to communicate. So they take selfies like crazy, And you take a selfie of yourself looking sad. That's better than going to Facebook and saying, I'm really having a blue day. People are following you on Pinterest, see your picture and go, "Aw, what's wrong?" I even saw this at a store, a Bed Bath & Beyond. It must have been part of the Beyond stuff. It was a little wand about this big with a little thing, and you could put your cell phone in that and telescope it out, so you could take a selfie, at a distance. People, it's crazy, but yeah, people are communicating how they feel, what they're doing. They're not communicating, hey, here's the Grand Canyon or whatever. So. Anybody else using Pinterest? Two or three people admit it. I mean, you see a way to use that to, I've read a story, somebody put a story on how to use Pinterest to, for your church. I didn't read it. There's so many people on social media is the way you got to go, and it's just not. Yes.
The kids all seem to be using Instagram.
Yeah.
What I saw recently, which had a positive effect, was people were dumping ice water.
Yeah. The Ice Bucket Challenge.
Right. And, this was a funny thing for one, and they challenged me. And it was just brilliant.
The thing with the Ice Bucket Challenge, did y'all see a couple of really ridiculous ones? I mean, they were outlandishly dressed or something really stupid, or they dropped the bucket on the head of the person, that kind of stuff. Okay, a lot of those had malware. So as soon as something like that catches on, the bad guys immediately go, hey, everybody's checking this out. Let's create a real funny one that'll go viral. And everybody who clicks it, they got malware on their computer. Malware means it's tracking you, it's sending information, all that kind of stuff. And they're doing a lot of these now that just basic malware for your cell phone and tablet are very rare, but that's how they're doing it. So yeah, I was following those, and then all of a sudden I realized I know what's going on here. And I researched it. Sure enough, two of the ones I looked to had been faked, just for the reason that it would go viral. But yeah, that's exactly right. Video is a great way.
Go again on how, let's say I'm preaching a homily and I ask a question and I ask them to, communicate back to me and tell me, get a congregation, kind of a quick survey. How would you use Twitter in a case like that?
You could have them, if you guys know how to use Twitter, take your cell phone out. It's hard. You got a very sophisticated audience, okay? Twitter, question to me, and use this hashtag. And the hashtag could be XYZLMNOP. And then you just have somebody search for anybody who's Twittering right then using the hashtag XMYLMNOP. And they got them. They got it. Because it does distribute. Email takes a long time. Twitter's really fast. So if you had somebody somewhere just doing a search, all your Twitter programs allow you to do search. So search for hashtag XMYLMNOP. You're going to see the text people are putting in right then.
Now, is texting easier in a case like that?
If it's more expensive, but it's more secure. You can get an SMS code. I mean, you can go to Easy Text, something like that, and they'll actually give you your own number. And so in that case, you would say text your comment to 574392. And that's your number. That's why it's expensive. You got a number nobody else has. But the beauty of that is, then you actually can say, if you do that route, I think it's churches try to save money where they shouldn't save money. Okay? If you go to Easy Texting or one of those services and you get an SMS number, it's going to pay off. Here's why. And that's what we used for those older people that went from 12 to 35. We had an SMS number we used. SMS number is easy for people to sign up. And then you can put it everywhere. Posters, you can put it in a bulletin. If you'd like information about our church, just text yes to 793-492. And when they do that at their own leisure, they get a message back and say, you're going to get text from this church about this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then you send out text, everybody who's said they like that. The beauty of that is their friends. I know a youth minister used it because youth really like texting. He got an SMS code, and the staff was like, this is going to cost a lot of money. He goes, I think it's going to be worth it. His youth group tripled. His youth group tripled in 3 or 4 months because at school, everybody said, hey, it's free for them to sign up. Sign up for this. What do? Text 79342. And the word yes, just text that. And you're going to get stuff from my church about next time we're having a pizza party or what the youth are doing. And it spread through the high school. So then when the youth minister sent a text out, he went back, and now it's going, instead of to 30 people, it's going to 120 people. Now he's got to pay. He pays a half a cent or whatever for every one of those texts, So he's got to have a budget to put in. You put in money on a card, it allows you to send out so many texts. Now, they can't respond back to an SMS text. That's why you don't also, I mentioned group texting, you don't want to do that. They can't respond back to an SMS text. They can unsubscribe at any time by putting the word stop. Now, I went to a church that's really doing great. I actually heard somebody mention them today. They just signed up for Seraphim. Heart of Life. It's down way south Kansas City. I signed up for theirs. I thought this would be interesting. I love to see a church really using an SMS code. And they don't text me any announcements. I mean, every so often I'll get some scripture quote or like a fortune cookie type of thing, trust the Lord with all your heart. And I'm like, this is a terrible waste of a good service. I wish I haven't received any announcements about, hey, don't forget this Friday is our churches, we're having baptism. Nothing at all. So some churches got it, spending the money, don't know how to use it. Okay? You want it to promote announcements. You don't want to send scriptures to people. I mean, you just don't want to do that. It doesn't work. So SMS texting that way is really, really good. If a church invests the money, it's because then what you do, like Easy Texting gives you groups. So you can say, sign up for 739492 choir, sign up for 794292 all church, sign up for 79, whatever the same number is, youth. And then you go to a program and you could say, I want to send this text just to choir. And hey, choir practice has been canceled. We're snowed out. Everybody gets that in 30 seconds. You cannot get that message out by phone calling or anything else. And I'll tell you the other most powerful way with texting like that. I know we're not really talking about social media, but we are. We're talking about texting. That group I had, the singles group of older people, I had like 35 people, 50. I think 50 people had signed up at that point. We were running 35. And my wife went to about 20 miles from the church out in the country, and I get a call from her. She goes, I've had a wreck. I'm trapped in the car. Paramedics are on their way. Please get here. And then she told me where she's at. I jumped in the truck. I started heading that way. By the time I got there, she was already in an ambulance. The car was totaled. They had to cut her out. I have no idea. No one would tell me anything. It's like, follow the ambulance. So I got in the car and followed the ambulance to the hospital. Now, you're never supposed to text when you're driving. I'm not encouraging this. But in this case, I voice texted. You can just hit the button and talk. And so I went to the group. I voice text. I said, my wife's been in a real bad wreck. I have no other information, but we're on our way to Belton Research Hospital. Please pray for me. And having been a pastor, having been in situations like this in the past, I never, ever experienced the ministry of that when I did that. Before I got to the hospital, 3 or 4 people were on their way to the hospital to support me and help me. Everybody's praying for my wife. It was incredible to disseminate that information, that powerful, that fast, and have people praying. The end result, I'm not a scientist. I'm not trying to do hokey pokey on you or anything like that. But they did CAT scans. They did MRIs. She was, the car was total. They cut her out. She was totally fine. We never found her glasses or some stuff. She had a crook in her neck and a problem, and it cured it. She was better after the wreck than she was before the wreck. And by the time they got done with everything, I had 5 friends there praying with me, touching me, holding my hands. It was incredible. Why we're not using this technology is beyond me. Are we really still putting in the bulletin, Jim was in a bad wreck on Monday, he died on Tuesday, the funeral was on Friday, please pray? Really? And I see that in the bulletins. I travel to different, I see that in a bulletin. I can't believe that's the way they're disseminating their prayer requests. Or an email. Emails take about 3 days before they read it, is the average. That's the average time before an email get read. It's crazy when we have this opportunity to use this technology for ministry. It's so much better. Yeah.
Is there any social media networking that we haven't touched on, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, texting, that you think is really good that the churches aren't?
Okay, is there any social media I think is really good that the churches aren't using? No, not for the church to use to disseminate their information. The best way is texting or handwrite those letters, whatever the best way to use social media is, again, to get your members to use it to share their faith, whatever it is. Because and if you do that, let's just talk about that. So I'm a Pinterest user. No, I'm a Facebook user. I use Twitter. I use Xbox. Okay, well, here's the deal. However you communicate with people, we'd love for you to share that our church is having a 100-year bash. Here's a URL that's going to take you to a website and tell you all about it. So whatever if you communicate through Pinterest or Xbox or Twitter or Facebook or MySpace or whatever you do, please share this. You have accomplished. It would take a communications director, 3 or 4 communication directors full-time to actually get messages out to all that kind of stuff. But if you can turn your congregation onto using whatever they're using to disseminate that information, that is the successful way of using it. It's just anything else is just not, doesn't work. And then use it to have them share their faith or promote your event. Now, you got to get a website, got to have a URL specific, got to make it easy, got to really promote that, got to be excited about that, and they'll do it. They'll send it and promote it. And you can do online registration for events with that URL. You can do all kinds of stuff. You could sell stuff. Hey, our church is selling cookies. Go to this site and you can buy some cookies. That's much better if you're going to sell cookies, for everybody to, you're going to get to thousands of people if your members share it on their Facebook or social media sites. Yes.
I really enjoyed that comparison between communication tools of 89 and 2014. There's more and more means of communication and less communication going on. True or false?
No, I think it's false. Everything is continuing to go crazy, and like I said, the amount of data being transferred is double from last year. It's going to double or more this year. And that's all these texts and all this stuff, the way people communicate. How many of you actually like texting? You text your friends, your family. Okay, how many of you don't get it? Yeah, I didn't for a long time. I didn't get it. The only way I can communicate with my youngest son, who just turned 30, the only way is texting. I can call him 1,000 times. He will not pick up. He will not return a call. He'll text me and say, hey, let's get together for lunch. I'm like, that's fantastic. Where? I don't know. Where do you want to go? And I don't know. You pick a place. You ask. I don't know. What time? I could maybe meet 11:30 to 1:30. Which time? I got a meeting at 12. I'm like, why don't we call each other? Nothing. I still have to text this out. It's just like he will not call. Now, there's a study. The reason I switched over to text was I read a study about that. And the study was that the way we're being raised with information overload and everything, people prefer to text his age, 30s, 40s, 50s. They prefer to text over voice. You know why? Voice, you're on the spot to say something right then. Text, you have a second to read it, and you have a second to think about it. You can compose your text back and send. We're just really afraid of looking bad. We're afraid of communication skills. Texting bypasses all that. I get control. The other beauty is they have the entire conversation. They can go back and read it the next day even, it's not lost. What did you say? I thought you said this. So they really prefer it over anything, and it's really frustrating for me. And my oldest son's just about as bad. I mean, he's almost 40, and he'll always text first. He'll never call. Never call. I have to text. And then, now, let's talk about group texting, because group texting is different than broadcast texting. Some people go, I don't need easy text. I don't need Twitter. I do group text. And on your cell phone, you can send a text to this person, then this person, then this person, then this person, then this person. Get 20 people, and you send the text out. The problem with that is one person responds, all 20 people get their response. And then somebody goes, LOL. And everybody gets the LOL. And they're like, what are you talking about? And everybody gets that. And this person said, well, Jim asked this. And it just gets crazy and it gets stupid. And people go, I don't want to be a part of that no more. This table understands completely. Do not group text. That's a terrible way to communicate. Do not do that to people. They'll get turned off and won't come back to your church forever. They'll be ticked. They don't want to be friends with you at all. So now Instant Messenger, the Messenger program with Facebook, no one's asked about that. That's interesting. You used to be able to message people on Facebook, and Facebook took it off of Facebook. It's still there if you use a computer, but no one uses a computer. You have to, if you have a tablet or a smartphone, you have to use their message program to message people. I think they've realized a direction we're going. And that is that personal communication with social media is becoming too hectic. People are following you. You want people to be able to follow you. You don't have to you have to be invited and, at the request and everything. So you want people to follow you, but it's gotten too stupid and too crazy. So Instant Messenger on Facebook allows you to communicate directly with 1, 2, 3, 4 people. You can do everything you used to be able to do with email, except it's faster because it goes right to your smartphone. Quite honestly, email still is not bad. It's just everybody thinks if they think it's an Oldsmobile and that's your dad's car, they're not going to buy one. They're commercial. They want new, they want fast. So you can use Twitter like email. You can use Instant Messenger on Facebook just like email. It's just a new way they want to communicate. It makes a little ding better on their phone. I get 500 emails a day, so I do not have my phone ding for an email. But Instant Message I do, and Twitter I do. Tweet I do. I don't follow anybody on Twitter that goes to my phone. Yes?
Group text is if I enter 4, 5, 6 names in and text and everybody gets it. If somebody responds, it goes to everybody. What's broadcast then?
Good. That's a very good question. Broadcast texting is using a service. Some of the church management software programs are allowing for broadcast texting now, like Church Community Builder. I don't know. Do you guys allow for broadcast texting? Seraphim yet? Okay. So what they do is like email. People have to give you their cell phone number. And some actually require the carrier. They need to put in AT&T, they put it in Sprint or whatever. And then you go to your church management software program and you can say, I want to remind everybody of choir meeting tonight. You just say, I want everybody who's in the choir, and hey, don't forget the meeting's at 9 and come in the back door. Boom, and they get on their text. They can't reply back. If they reply back, it goes someplace you'll never see, no one knows, and everybody doesn't get it if they reply back. So they get to understand this is a broadcast text. It's me pushing information about an event. It's reminding you of something. And it absolutely is amazing because of all this information load, how that's going to pick up stuff,
How do you see that being used effectively other than just saying what information is out there?
Ask again, I'm sorry.
Other than just another way of communicating via text message, information about your church. How do you see that being? What's the more strategic use for that?
For people who are not members of your church to get it?
Well, first for people who are members and then people who are not.
If people who are members, you'd have to set up a booth out in the front, and when people leave church, say, please sign up for our texting service. If you don't already have their cell phone number, they have to give you their cell phone number. And they're going to go, I don't text. Hey, don't worry about that. You don't have to text. But you're going to get an announcement. And don't overdo it. Don't start sending them a scripture verse 3 times a day. They're going to unsubscribe from that quick. They're going to beg to get off. They're going to... Don't overuse it. Allow them to sign up for specific groups. So that's why you want to be able to, if your church management software program or you want to get an outside program that does that, you want to be specific groups. So when you're sending a text, it doesn't go to the whole church to let them know that the choir practice is at 7 o'clock and come in the back door. They don't need that information. They don't want that information. So that's what a broadcast text needs to be targeted. You send it to, we had an SMS service like Easy Texting will allow you to set up different groups. So only the youth get the youth text, only the choir gets the choir text. Yeah. So it goes to specific groups. And then you'll want all church. You want everybody sometimes at all church. Hey, pray for this, or the snowstorm is canceled church, or don't forget the anniversary's coming up. There's times you want to do all church. It used to be, be careful, don't send out maybe 2 texts a week. Now, texting's getting pretty popular. Most of your congregation is not going to be upset if you just don't start texting them stuff they don't need to know. Boy, you should just go online and look because new ones are crop. Easy Texting is one I used 5 years ago. If you're using, church management, ask them. And if you're using church management and they don't provide it yet, tell them that they really need to. Because I've pushed it to all the church management softwares. You need to provide this. There's just so much stuff that's really cool they're doing. Check-in using tablets. And, some of the newer guys and smaller guys really have some of the really cool programs. It's harder for the bigger churches, programs, companies to really catch up. But I really believe texting's strong enough, and these guys all advertise with me, and that's how I make my living. I believe texting's strong enough that if they're not providing texting or not working on providing texting, you need to change. You don't need to keep track of their address or their contributions. Anything can do that. You need to be able to communicate with your congregation, and texting is the only way I would communicate. I'd do the other stuff, but I wouldn't do the other stuff without having texting and the ability. Got time for one more question? Yes.
What's the prime time for, because you mentioned prime time for Twitter earlier, so what would be the prime time for social media and prime time for, let's say, texting?
Like if we were going to promote something on Friday night on 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 2 hours before, and you don't want to, and like when I did that Twitter text, it's going on Twitter corporate, I did it 2 o'clock in the afternoon, after the lunch break. And you got to, in my case, I'm international. In my case, I'm certainly national. So we always try to do something after all the lunch breaks, and that hit the 2 o'clock, I think actually went up 3, because 2 o'clock would have been noon on the West Coast. You don't have to worry about that as much for your congregation. But events, that's the whole deal. Don't bother. Don't Twitter Monday night. Don't forget the meeting Friday. Wednesday night, don't forget the meeting Friday. Thursday, you just text them 2 hours before. It's amazing how people will, oh gosh, I got enough time to clean up and get there now. I forgot it was Friday. Is it Friday already? That's the world we live in. They're just so busy and stuff. So, yes.
Do you see anything coming after texting? For example, everybody was emailing and the kids saw that we were emailing.
Yeah.
The problem is, no, I don't. The problem is texting is one thing that everybody uses right now. There's nothing else I can think of. And texting's got different versions of that people use. It's crazy. Like Snapchat. I hate Snapchat. I wish our government would outlaw Snapchat. They should outlaw Snapchat. And now Snapchat will start pushing commercials, and Snapchat's like a $14 billion business. Snapchat allows you to send a text of a picture or something, and when the person receives the text and they see it, it disappears in 10 seconds. So young people are using it to send all sorts of illicit pictures and all sorts of, have you got the stuff? I'll meet you after school at 3, and then that text is gone. Or to cheat on a text, they can send the answers to a text out to people, and then it's gone. There's no proof that it went out. What they don't realize, particularly, is Snapchat keeps getting crashed. So all these naked pictures of teenagers and stuff is getting caught occasionally and ending up places. Everything out there is out there. And the young people today, the kids that are starting on Facebook at 13, they're profiling them big time. They're really strong on data management. Anything they do, anything they say, anything. You know why? Because when they turn 17 and 18, go to college, they're going to be, get this credit card, buy this, do this. They know that if young people going to college get a credit card and they max it out and they can't pay it, they can go back on their parents. Their parents will normally pay it. And so there's a whole market in that, to know what to market to them and text to them and push to them. It's sad. Wish we lived in a world that everything wasn't known about us, but about everything is known about us. If you've ever gone anyplace, somebody knows about it. If you ever looked up something, they know about it. Just realize it. And every time you fill out one of those games, you're just telling everybody about your psychological makeup. It'd be interesting to read, what they know about you. I've never done any of those. I'm pretty glad about that. My wife has, and I'm like, My wife uploaded the latest version of Apple on her smartphone before I could tell her not to. So she went through all those problems. A minute. Anything else about, maybe anything I talked about earlier or anything about social media? So you want to use social media. Do you get that? You want to get your members to use whatever, Xbox, whatever. You want to give them the tools, give them the URL to promote this. You want to give that to them to have them use social media. You don't need to be there. You can have your small little social media if you want to, but don't, it should be for your friends and family. And it works really great for just that. All right? I think we're done. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here. I love this. You're a good audience. Thanks.